So today on the First Time Storytelling broadcast, my guest is Chrystina. I should have asked how you pronounce your last name. Is it Nguyen?
I pronounce it Nguyen, but
Nguyen.
people pronounce it now Win, which is the proper way, but I just grew up saying Nguyen. So Christina Nguyen
Nguyen.
is the
All
best
right, well,
way.
let's go with the way you like it. Christina Nguyen. Christina is the business development lead for unconventional tech company in Sterling, Virginia called Rhythmic Technology. She also enjoys making quick videos of her journey and meeting great people of this world. And we were just talking about this before we went on. She's also fabulous at helping people color their hair and be unique about it. So I was telling her I absolutely love her background with the hair and her style. It just stands out and it's amazing. So Christina is here to share the story of her the first time she met her husband to be when she was only 17 years old. And so Christina gave me a couple options for her first time stories. And when I saw that, I was like, I want to hear the story of your first love and the fact that you married him and you're still married. It is so rare in today's society, unfortunately, to be so blessed to meet your husband at such a young age and to still be so happily in love. So that is the story she's here to share, and I cannot wait to hear it. So welcome, Christina.
Well, thank you, Anne. Thank you so much for that intro. And I was thinking, how is she going to intro me? Because I didn't send her anything. I figured, because watching some of your other videos, you do a great intro. So I was like, she must be doing her research to find this out. But thank you so much for having me here on this. It's raining over here in Virginia. I don't know what it looks like in Vegas, but imagine it's quiet out there.
Yeah, it is a sunny, beautiful day, and the heat it's admittedly this week it's been a cool week and it's been awesome, but that ends today. And next
Yeah,
week we're going to the hundreds, and I think we're going to stick to that moving forward.
nice.
But that
Nice.
is life in Las Vegas. Okay, so let's do this. I want to start out with what kind of 17-year-old young woman were you?
Okay. All right. All right. Be prepared. So I got married at 17. I had met my husband at 15, and you could say I was a little troublemaker, but really good in school. So my parents were very much, I was a latchkey kid, so to speak. My parents were very hands off a lot of my youth. Um, Pretty much as long as I brought home straight A's, I could really do anything I wanted. So I think by ninth grade, I had no curfew, and I brought home straight A's. So I was a party animal. I had a lot of great friends. I had a history of hanging out with a lot of gang members back then, but to each their own. I love my experience, and I'm glad I did it when I was young. Um, but yeah, I was
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Sterling, but I did go to three different high schools. I grew up in Sterling. I went to Sterling Middle, Sterling Elementary, and was able to maintain those friendships with a lot of my friends back then. But pretty much when I fell in love with my husband, I fell off the face of the earth and just gave it my all, and cut a lot of ties to a lot of folks back then. And if I regret anything, is maybe keeping some of those ties. But life goes on, and people have changed since then. But yeah, so the kid I was back then was I was definitely the mom of the group. As we're partying and having a good old time, I made sure your cell phone didn't get lost. You're not drunk texting any ex-boyfriends. You're not getting too obliterated, and keeping you hydrated during your party days. So very much the mom in my life, or in my friends group back then. And pretty much, yeah, I was kind of doing my own thing at 16. I actually left my house at 16, and kind of what brought this to this independency is I had met my husband at 15, so in ninth grade, and we dated for like 3 months. That was like the longest time I ever dated somebody.
All right, we're
But
gonna have to. I'll let you finish that, and then we'll come back to it because I definitely want to really get into the first time you met him and all that good
sure,
stuff. But
oh, sure, sure. Um,
continue.
but yeah, it was. I went to three different high schools, so I kind of bounced around. But yeah, I mean, it was good. I had a very interesting youth, and that's kind of the 17-year-old gal I was really good at school, but I knew how to hold conversations and meet new people because I went to 3 different high schools all the time. But it was
So
really
what did you switch school?
so my parents had split up during when I was well, they split up a long time ago, and something happened to my father. He was incarcerated, so
Hmm.
my stepmom had to make a decision to send kids that weren't hers back to my mom in Hawaii. So I went to school in Hawaii. So I dated my husband for a smidge, and we'll go back to the story when I met him. But I dated my husband for a smidge, and then I left to Hawaii for a whole year, and came back after a year when I realized a gal like me could not finish school in Hawaii. It was a very different school system than it is to here. I think Northern Virginia in general, or just the school systems here, were way better. So I convinced my mom at that time to bring me back. And then that's when I got with my husband again, went to 2 different high schools under our life together. But yeah, that's kind of the travels of why I went to
So,
several different high schools.
okay, so let's get to that fateful moment where you first laid eyes on your husband.
Okay. So there's technically 2 stories, but I'll tell you the one that I plan to tell my kids. Um, so here are our lockers. I had about 14 lockers away from my now husband. And back in the day, he was really bad at remembering his combination. And it was probably about 3 months into the school year. I like never really noticed him. I was like kind of doing my own thing. And it was just us in the hallway, and I was doing something. I was getting a book or whatever out of my locker, and I look over and he's standing there struggling trying to open his locker. And I think he like came in late. He was just like kind of out of it. I was like, hey, can I help you like open your locker? So I opened it, and I was just like kind of impressed with his face, in the sense like I've never seen him here before, or like I never really noticed him here before. It's like, who are you? And it didn't really pay me no mind until I saw him again that day, and he apparently had the same science class next to my science class. I think it was like third period. And we had a good mutual friend, so to speak, that was in his class. And that same day, they both come out talking to each other. And they separated, and I asked my friend, I was like, hey, who's that guy? Like, what's his name? And she told me his name was Carlos. And I was like, ooh, who is he? Like, I've never seen him before. And he wasn't a part of the gangs that I was hanging out with. He wasn't one of those guys. Come to find out, he was a new student from a few towns over that just came over to our town, which I would have essentially met him in 8th grade, but never really paid any mind to the things happening in 8th grade. So I met him in 9th grade, and he was another towny boy that had no reputation here in our town. He didn't hear my reputation yet, and at that point, I was like, I need to know him. Who is he? He looks really good. And I'll say it on here. He had a big old butt. I just love his butt so much. And that's like one of the things I love right now is his butt. But he had a big old butt. And I was just like, who is this guy? But it was really cool. I did find out during that kind of time of getting to know him, or infatuation, so to speak, that he was dating a girl from his old town. And that was okay. Like, I got the message, and honestly, I helped him open his locker like 6 times in those 2 weeks. So it was like very like, hey, like, can I help you again? I'll see you, in the science room later. Just like very,
So you were definitely the one that was in pursuit.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's like what I will tell my kids when I have them, is I was in total pursuit. And I think in those 2 weeks, I was like, I'm gonna make him mine. That guy's gonna be mine soon. But I held my distance. He had a girlfriend. I wasn't about to mess nothing up.
Yeah.
And it was really organic. I just helped him open his locker and like, batted my eyes here and there. But come to find out, 2 weeks later, he broke up with that girl, and I snatched him right up after that. His friend, our mutual friend, told us, he's like, oh yeah, he just broke up with her. And then it was on, and I was just like, so can I help you with your locker now? Can I walk with you to class? Like, let's have lunch together. Like, let's talk more. And
So was he very receptive, or was he like one of
oh
those
yeah,
kind of okay. So he was getting at what was happening. So when did he ask you on an official date? Or I know in
Um,
high school you don't really necessarily
yeah.
do that, but so it was more. It kind of just morphed into
hmm
your
So
boyfriend and girlfriend
this
situation.
is that this is that three month period of time before I left for a whole year, um, and it's actually really interesting. We hung out a little bit, we like flirted, and I remember it was basically he asked me, "Hey, do you want to come over to my house on Saturday during the day?" And that was like the official date. That was when. And I just remember my dad dropping me off and seeing him, and he's a very light skinned Colombian guy. My dad, the first thing he said is he a cop? Like, what are you doing? My family's very traditional. They weren't at the beginning, and obviously it's much different now. I've been married to him for 12 years. In the beginning, they were like, he's not Asian. What are you doing? Um, I was like, Dad, he's not a cop. It's okay. Just drop me off and pick me up in 3 hours, okay? Just like leave me alone. And yeah, so he had me come over to his house and we hung out. We, kind of did some fun things and made it official. But right around that time, and it's crazy now that this is something in protest now about the Dream Act. So back then, the Dream Act was initiated, and I remember a lot of high school kids were skipping school to do protests and going to other high schools to get students to skip school and do this protest for immigrants, and creating the Dream Act for children that have been here, and
Yeah,
that.
born here and yeah.
Yeah, and that was like when I knew this was real, because I was such a good student. I had never skipped school. I never did anything like that. But with him, I felt like a little, risky and adventurous. And I was like, let's skip school. If I'm going to skip school, it's going to be a protest of this. And, we held our hands and walked together in that whole protest the whole time. And I just like remember that. And to this day, I'm like, man, we were like fighters together. We were like
Yeah.
going against the man together. And we, back and forth, we dated. He would ride his bike down to my house, and I didn't have a curfew then. And every once in a while, I would sleep over at his. And like I said, my parents really let me do my own thing. So it wasn't like, hey, honey, you're 16.
Yeah.
You can't be home anymore like that. Um, but
So
it was
what happened when the time came when you knew you were going to be leaving? So was that
uh,
like a heartbreaking moment?
it really was. And like, it really was. It was a mutual decision. Like, we knew we weren't gonna do this long distance. Like, you were 15 then, like what were we thinking? And I was in Hawaii. It wasn't like I was 5 towns over. I was literally across the country, across the ocean. Um, and yeah, it was like that. But we actually kept in touch for a majority of that time, or at least I did. Again, I was definitely the pursuer in all of this. And lucky him, he just ate it all up.
So you
I,
didn't date anybody else while you were in
I
Hawaii, or
did.
you
I did.
did? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
I
Yeah.
did, but we still kept in touch, and so did he. So, he did his own thing, and that I'm sure I'm going to go through that part of the story too. But so we kept in touch, and that was kind of when I realized not so much the guy I was dating then, but like the lifestyle I was living in Hawaii wasn't a healthy one. And I was just more mindful of the education I wanted, and I just knew Hawaii couldn't really provide that for me. So I convinced my mom to send me back. And while this was happening, this is how I got emancipated and was an adult by 16. Was after I convinced my mother that I couldn't stay here in Hawaii, I wanted to go back to Virginia and go to school there. At the time, my stepmom was really trying to build back her life, and my dad was still incarcerated. I was going to live with a friend of mine, not my boyfriend husband now, but it was just a friend who I kept really great, kept in touch with, and he was going to help me out, get me started back in high school again. And in the conversations with my now husband, he convinced me. He's like, "No, don't live with your friend. Like, live with me. My family knows you. Like, you should totally stay with me." And we had that discussion. Like, but why? We're not together. Like, and of course we didn't necessarily say to each other at that time that he had a girlfriend and I had a boyfriend. um, but somehow, it's not a decision I regret at this point. I never really did going back to staying with his family. I love his family. They're great. They're very traditional in comparison to my parents, and so there was like a stability there. So yeah, somehow I got off that plane. He picked me up. I had basically a suitcase and a trash bag, and he set me up in his room, and that was the immediate. I
Wow.
guess we're starting this over again, and starting where we left off a year ago. And
Wow,
it wasn't
that's
easy. It was not easy, Anne. Those first 2 years were by far the roughest, even in high school. And this is, yeah, uh, we went through a lot of things. And that's how I got into two different high schools because of, when you're 16, living on your own with no parents to really tell you anything, like, I was such a good student, and I still am. I actually passed with advanced honors in my senior year. But that little smidge of a year I skipped a lot of school and basically was told to switch schools or get on probation. So that's how I got
so
into
this is
high
why
school.
you're living with him and his parents, and are his parents trying to parent you, or that's had to be a
No,
little weird? So you just,
no.
it's a place for you to stay, and
It was actually. I mean, his parents, like, even for him growing up, he lived a very individualized life. So, like, his parents really didn't monitor or parent his life, I guess, in a traditional sense. So, they didn't really have much to say to me in the sense of, like, go to bed, like, brush your teeth, or, like, what are you doing for homework? They knew very much we were very independent at that time. So for them, it was just like, do you want something? You want something to eat? Can I get you something to eat?
yeah.
His mom is very much a Colombian mom, so he's a mama's boy. So it's very nurturing. Don't want to piss you guys off, kind of thing.
So there was no like possibility to break up either, like or did that okay?
Uh, I mean, there had been moments in those years where that was definitely on the table for consideration, but something about our headstrong, stubborn selves, that we weren't going to let it defeat us, so we stuck together. But yeah, it wasn't it wasn't like the best fairy tale story in the beginning, but like looking back on it now, that's not something I would hide from my kids. So yeah, it was rough. And I think for our mindset at the time, we were very mature considering to have stuck together this long. And I mean, yeah, his parents were amazing.
So
They're good.
you decide, were you at 17 when you graduated, when you got married, or how did he propose? How did
Okay.
the whole now we're getting married come about?
So yeah, it was a terrible proposal. It was so terrible that I will remember it for being awesome at this point. I was 17. We had dated. We just moved with his parents to a new apartment together. We had been dating for quite some time now at this point. It was already serious at this point. Um, he had quit school, got a GED, and I was the one that was going to finish out and pursue, finish the high school degree. Um, and it was the last day of my junior year, last day of junior, basically last day of school. And I was really, really sick. In fact, the outfit that I was proposed in, I still have it. It was pajama shirt with R.I.P. Aaliyah, Biggie, Tupac. And it was a big old shirt that I wore, and the pants I wore was Three Stooges sleeping pants, and I still have them. There are so many holes, and I have sewed them together just to keep it for nostalgia's sake that this was the outfit I was wearing when you married me. So he comes in. It wasn't anything extravagant. I was literally, dead in bed, coughing and hacking, really sick. And he came over. He picked the wrong hand. He was like, "Can I see your hand?" And it was really interesting because the day before, we jokingly went to the mall and looked at rings. Um, and we looked at those very simple, like solitaire rings. And he picked the wrong hand, and I was like, if this is what you're doing, you got the wrong hand. And he's like, "What?" I was like, "This is not the right hand if I think I know what you're doing." So, he pulled my left hand out, and he was like, "Will you marry me?" And I was like, "Oh my God, yeah." And that was that. I was really sick. It was the last day of school of my junior year. And then that was in June, about June 17th, I believe. We got married. That's end of the summer, September, like right before my
Senior year.
senior year started. Um, And even then, that was an interesting one too. So, weddings are cool, but man, I saved a lot of money on my wedding. It was great.
Just kept it simple. Pretty simple. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I mean I could go into that story as well, and planning your first and hopefully only marriage at 17 and being very frugal. I was blessed to have some amazing friends. I had the whole makeup artist feel. They came over, she did my makeup. I actually have pictures of that. I had a friend who helped me get wedding photos for free. Like all of this was for free.
Yeah.
So I have wedding photos, and it was just we got married at a tax office. We did, we got the court papers. We got married at a tax office, so nothing extravagant. It was in the witness of my two friends who did my makeup and my photography, and his parents. That was the audience at that point.
So, and that's really all you need.
Yeah, I
So
actually didn't
now,
tell my mom till 2 years after. I mean,
oh,
like she didn't meet my husband till 2 years after I got married, and my whole family from her side never met my husband till 3 years after we got married.
so it's now been 12 years, you mentioned.
Hmm.
And obviously, you've grown up more since then, and
Yeah.
you're a career woman now. And like, how do you see your younger self or where you are now? And how has your relationship continued to grow? Because obviously, you change a lot from
Mhm.
17 to now, and you're going to continue to grow. But how have you kept it going? Like, how do you know that you still made the fabulous right decision at 17?
I think it's just having a really good mindset, no doubt. I think it was last year where I basically was like, honey, I think I've spent more time with you in my entire consecutive life. With you than my own parents. So like, at 28, you would think you'd have spent more time with your parents under the same roof with your parents, and that was never the case for me. I was very much back and forth because my parents had split between Virginia and Hawaii. So being with that, like looking back now, I don't I it's you really do have to think about compromising communication. In senior year, there was a mathematics book that basically said by the age of 25, if you married anybody before 20, by the age of 25, it would be 75% chance of divorce. 75% chance. And then after that, it was like guaranteed at that point. And I remember turning 25 and remembering that little bit. It was on the corner left of my math book page, and I just like remember reading it from there. And having that mindset that I had to beat my parents' divorce rate, my family's side of the family, my mother's side, who all had kids before the age of 18 and hadn't gotten the opportunity to finish college. So really, it was more to like prove myself that kept me really going to making sure this relationship was going to work. And things happen, right? And I have like a lot of little tips, like keep things going. And divorce happens essentially when you don't like your spouse at the same time they don't like you. You're never going to be 100% enthralled in love all the time. There will be times you look at that person and be like, I hate you right now. And that's in any relationship. I'm sure the audience would probably agree that there's going to be times you hate them. And it's just really being mindful when you do happen to fall in that instance where both of you guys might hate each other at the same time, is who's going to walk away and understand that this isn't something you can just easily turn off. You put a lot of years into building a relationship like this, and building a relationship to essentially have kids and be great examples to your kids. So I think that's the mutual values that me and my husband have now, because we've grown together and are like very much alike now. I wouldn't be who I am today without him, because we were together for so long.
Yeah.
So, like, even if we were to end it, I couldn't ever have him completely out of my life. Like it would be really difficult to be friends, and whatnot. I'm sure it'd be a very interesting breakup should it ever happen. But there's nothing I would regret from the life I spent with him, and being who I am today and learning together and having him compromise just as much as I compromised in our life. But we've had a good time. I mean, we're very blessed to have gotten what we've gotten together, and build the life that we've had together. And I wouldn't have it any other way at this point. I mean, even the troubles that we had back then, I could sit here and say I regret not, having had done that or having had that fight, but it wouldn't have defined us where we are today.
Yeah. Well,
Both
it's
we-
really, I mean, it's rare. I mean, it just plainly is simply extremely rare. One, the childhood that you had, where that level of independence, which thankfully was matched with a level of maturity,
Mhm.
and then to be able to still meet someone and go through a lot of difficulties and hardship, but
Mhm.
decide that you sometimes it does pay to be stubborn. I mean, I love how you said that. It's like, hey, you have two stubborn people that love each other that are going to make this work.
Yeah.
It probably is going to work because you're going to put in all the effort and the hard work
Yeah.
that is required to,
Mhm.
to make it happen versus if you had a different scenario. So that's just really amazing. Because you went on to college,
Yes.
and what about him? So he took his GED and just entered
He
the
did.
workforce and
He went straight into the workforce. He's I mean, right now he's technically unemployed due to the situation at hand, and even for him, this is the longest he has been unemployed and like haven't worked. We've been working since we were. I mean, for him, he's been working since he was 14. I've been working since I was 16. So we are quite the workaholics, and are very much making sure we build a foundation together that's solid to build more on top of that. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I went to college, and I did night school. So I'd work during the day, did night school, and he did his thing, and we supported each other back and forth with that. And we're very much independent, even in our own finances and even in our own education. That school, the school I did was for me, and it wasn't like essentially for us in the sense of debt. So that was like my choice, and the same for him. It was his choice to not go to school. It wasn't his thing. It wasn't his best forte at the time, and it worked out. It was never like I'm better than you or you're better than me type of thing. Like we knew our strengths. I'm a good student, and I'm not saying he was a bad student, but he wasn't really
this wasn't
into
his thing.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a good student in school. Learning, I love learning. School, not really my thing. I don't like tests. I'm not good at tests. And yeah, I mean, but it just doesn't. I think we're much more aware today
Mhm.
that you don't need to fall into
No,
any
not at
given
all.
path.
Not
It's
at
like
all.
you can pave your own road however way that you want to, and it's actually much better, healthier that you do instead of falling into
Absolutely.
whatever everybody else wants for you. So that's really great that you two never put sort of any pressure on each other to be something different for one another. That level of acceptance is, yeah, that's again, I keep saying that word, rare. But it just is, it's just really rare. But it is what it takes for something to work. Now you mentioned that you do want to have kids, and so that's like within like the next 5 years, that's the,
Within the next 5 years, like
yeah.
being stir crazy in the house now, and I know there's a lot of parents out there who are like, leave me alone, these kids are crazy. Yeah, definitely now it's a bit stir crazy. Like, yeah, we could have a little buddy with us all the time that loves us and talks back. I have a dog, thank God I have a dog. But yeah, so we're getting to that age where we're like, all right, kids are gonna happen soon. And I mean, when I turned 26, when we were together then, and I mean, leading up to that relationship at 26, I think that's when I really, I guess, put the serious foot down and was like, look, if we're going to be fighting, we're going to fight productively. If we're going to be beefing with each other and having these, shitty weeks where you don't like each other, like, we got to do this productively. We're adults now. And I mean, I say at 26, that was like my adulting time. Prior to then, we were just having a grand old time, traveling, fighting, doing all things that young love does. But at 26, we kind of, I kind of put the foot down. I was like, anything we do, we're doing it for our future now. We were living presently in the moment for a lot of our lives. I'm enjoying every bit of it, the good and the bad. But at that point, I was like, look, we got to build a foundation. We actually bought a house in 2018. And, he's buying a couple properties in his motherland of Colombia. But I think 26 was really the epitome of like, this is a serious relationship. We've been together for a really long time. And even growing up into that relationship, we I jokingly had the mindset of, hey, if you divorce me, I'm going to look like this forever. So, that was always a joke. But yeah, very grateful to have the very similar values. And it's honestly because we've been together,
Yeah, so
creating
long.
those values
Yeah.
together,
All
and
right. Well,
putting our family wrong, or at least mine, that I could do this.
yeah. That's another good motivator.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. It's been great hearing your story. I'm ready to shift over to the first time lighting round. Are you ready to
Sure.
play? All
Yeah.
right. So the way that it works, I'm going to give you some options. If there are things you've done before, then if you're on the app, you would swipe up. So you can just say up or I've done it before. Something you've never done, not interested, we go left. And if something you've never done, would like to do, then it's right. And you would add it to your list.
Okay.
Okay. So first one, fly first class.
I have not done that, but I want to.
Yeah, right. So that's a right. We'll add into the list. Play tennis.
No, don't want to do that.
Really, no interest in playing tennis.
Yeah, nope. That is a lot. I got knee surgery back in
Um,
February, and just the idea of pivoting back and forth, I can hear my knee snapping right now.
I like negative. Okay. Get a foot massage.
Oh, all the time, all the time, all the time. Yep.
Use a compass.
Um, I have not, but we do go camping, so I have a possession of a compass, and I have looked at it. I've never needed to guide me in a direction yet.
All right. But if you needed to use it, you would know how to use it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Play the harp.
No, I have not done that. I probably wouldn't want to do that. I think I would look really funny trying, because you always see those like methodical looks and trying to like look angelic like. I just don't think I could pull that off.
Pull that. All right. So that's the left. Take a cooking class.
Oh, hands down, totally would do.
Totally would do it. Do you have anything that you're like, I would love to take a class and learn how to do that?
I would love to take an Indian food class.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Lots of spices to learn.
Lots of spices to learn. If anything, that would be a great. I mean, in the Asian culture, I know quite a bit of that, and that's like in its own realm, I'm sure. But like Indian food, oh, I would love to take a cooking class for Indian food.
All right. Awesome. Grow a garden.
I've thought about it. I do have a lot of flowers. I know that's like stage 4 in quarantine right now for a lot of folks, like making their own gardens and things. My best friend's doing it. I would, I'd be okay with it. I think that's going to be more my husband though.
That his thing. I can help him out. Yeah.
I'll water my orchids and stuff. That's like my garden.
Well, I mean, plants are growing plants is gardening too.
Yeah.
So
So yes.
it doesn't have to be food. It doesn't have to be
Okay.
veggies. Yep. So, okay, make a crowdsourcing investment.
Ooh. I guess nonprofit fundraising doesn't necessarily count, but I feel, yeah, I could do that. There's a couple of things I could think of for crowdsourcing investments. Yeah,
You would
I would
do?
try.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Play horseshoe.
Ooh, haven't done it. I would be down to do it. Yes.
All right. It's a fun
That's like
in the
cornhole.
backyard. Yeah, it's a totally fun backyard
Do,
game
do
to
you
play.
have horseshoe in your backyard?
Yeah, I don't have a backyard big enough for
Oh,
to put horseshoes down. Otherwise, otherwise I would totally, absolutely do it because, and especially in the desert to have the sand, so because you kind of need a pit so it doesn't go flying. Otherwise, you're chasing horseshoes quite far away. But the first time I played horseshoe, I think was when I was stationed in the desert in Twine on Palms, and I really enjoy playing it. And I'm competitive at whatever game I play. So
I can sense that. I can definitely.
yeah. All right, do the jive.
Yeah, down. I boogie.
New boogie, definitely. Any dancing, you're adding it to the
I'm in.
list.
Yeah,
All
100%.
right. Awesome. All right. So the next question is a first time story prompt, and today's prompt is first college degree.
Oh, okay. I got my college degree at ITT Technical Institute, which is closed. So, when we were talking about college and stuff
Are
like that,
they? Are they closed? Like out of
They're
business
shut down.
closed?
They're out of business.
Really?
Yeah,
I
all
remember their commercials growing, like not growing, but like as a teenager, and
yeah.
really
No, all
closed, huh?
they closed down in 2016. I know there's a bunch of us out there still waiting on some reprimands from or I guess borrows defense funds from that. So I'm in the process of that right now. But yes, I got a degree, a bachelor's degree in computer science with drafting and design and project management. And till this day, my husband will always tell me, "I told you so. You should have went to that college. You should have went
Mm.
somewhere else." But I have a college degree. I went to the school, not necessarily but yeah, it
You
was an
still
interesting.
learn. I mean, you still
Still learned
learn.
fun,
Yeah, it was still good. It was still a good education as far
so
as
to speak.
knowledge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, my first college degree was an associate's degree in liberal arts from Copper Mountain College in 29 Palms, California. So I got it. Night school was full-time Marine, and so
You
there's not a
got
whole.
a liberal arts degree while you were a Marine.
Yeah, so well,
Okay.
it ended up being so because it was a community college. So
Hmm.
there's not so every base they bring colleges on. So when
Yeah.
you have the option to take college courses. So I ended up choosing Cover Mountain College instead of the others. I'm not entirely sure why I went that way but I needed an associate's degree so I could apply for the meritorious commissioning program. And I
Mhm.
think that was the fastest way for me to get it was through Copper Mountain College because they also did the whole like taking your military experience and transferring into credits.
Mhm.
So when I transferred my degree to get my bachelor's, they were like, "Yeah, that's not really a credit. Like you're gonna have to do this stuff over again."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, okay." But in that, I got the associate's degree. I got selected for the meritorious commissioning program, and I did not get my bachelor's until I was in my 30s. And it was I looked at it more. It was because I had failed as an entrepreneur, and I'm like, oh, I might as well go get a college degree now. And I've never used my college degree, but I did have a good time, and I was using the 9/11 GI Bill, so I was getting paid to go to school, and I'm in my 30s, and I'm in school, and it was
Yeah.
kind of, and that was in New Orleans, so that was nice.
Ooh, I love New
Yeah.
Orleans. Haven't been, but if I could choose another city to live in, it would be there.
It's a great. I love my time in New Orleans, and I say New Orleans. She's like this. The voodoo that she do, like it changed my life
Hmm.
living there. It absolutely. New Orleans will always have an extremely special place in my heart,
Hmm.
for sure. So I lived there for 5 years, and um, I needed her. So I know people talk that way about New York City and they talk that way about Paris, but to me, it's New Orleans. I talk to the
That's
city of New
amazing.
Orleans that way.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean,
So
it's never too late to go to college. I know I got wide-eyed to hear that you went to college at 30 and was able to complete it there. But my husband's 30 now, and he's considering college now. And my stepmother, graduated at 38 for her first college degree. And like it's never
yeah,
too late to gain the skills you want to learn and like take your time
exactly.
to enjoy. Yeah.
Should listen. So I did an interview, Steve Rass. So his first time story is getting his degree for the first time, his second time around,
Hmm.
and his journey to getting his degree is actually it's very interesting because he was working at a college as a PE instructor, and he applied at that school, and they turned him down to
Oh,
go to school there, but he was working there. So it's a very interesting story. Like, what?
like
Yeah.
conflict of interest. I can't be a student while teaching the students. I don't
I
know.
have to listen to this interview, how that all played out.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, his story and so many others, it's like, if whenever you want to do it, you can do it. If you never want to do it, no worries about it,
Yeah.
then don't, you know? So, all right. So, last question is how have you been making the best out of the current situation? What's happening with the pandemic?
Lots of self-awareness time. I think the days are longer, so to speak. I'm sure everybody can agree to that. But the best of it is, I recently had my birthday pass a couple weeks
Happy
ago,
belated
and
birthday.
thank you so much. And it's a really great mindset to be in. So I think my mindset's probably the best thing I'm getting out of all of this. My self-awareness of my habits and who I am at home as a person, and dealing with my husband, and just like learning about how much you can really put together on somebody. But the mindset of, so my birthday, typically my birthday, I probably would have seen 2 or 3 girlfriends, but I had a virtual birthday and I got to see 10 of my girlfriends, and I got to see 15 of my cousins in one sitting in a Zoom call, not together, separate rooms, separate instances. And that was a really great birthday. I saw 25 of my most loved people in my life for my birthday, and I would have never gotten that in an average world of, going out, having dinners, girlfriend nights, and stuff like that. So I really am enjoying a lot of what I'm seeing, and to being, thank you again for this honor to be on your show today. And I network a ton. So, I mean, this week has kicked my butt. I went to 12 networking events. So there was a happy hour at each end of the day. I have one tonight, and, I'm meeting you, and I'm really enjoying this time. I honestly thought I was going to be more gung-ho of wanting to go back to the office. I'm not. I'm doing really good hanging out here. I told my boss that. I was like, I think I'm just gonna, I might show up in a couple of weeks, but I'm really busy right now and enjoying all the people I've gotten to meet during this time.
Oh, well, that's awesome. That's fabulous. That's the spirit. It's like, okay, how can I make the best out of the situation?
Yeah.
And then the surprises, like if you are open to the situation, and those surprises can come in. And that's such a fabulous way of using this time and getting the most out of it. And hopefully your boss is going to be open to you, telecommuting and
Oh
continuing
yeah.
to do things this way.
Oh, hands down.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really
And
great.
even now, when I get a credit card, one of those credit card letters in your mailbox, I'm like, this is cool. I haven't gotten any letters in a long time. So I'm very optimistic, and that's probably what's kept me going this long, is being highly optimistic. Like, this is the first time it's rained, and it's really nice. I ain't gonna lie. You know.
Just imagine if you had a garden, you'd be like, oh, thank God it's raining.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. My garden, thankfully, the people who lived here before, they flooded it with some really great flowers. I've gone out there and maybe cut a couple bouquets for my house, but no, I am not a gardener. But yes, if I
Yeah.
was, this is really nice having this weather.
I was just, again, it just depends what you have going on in your life, or what other situations come in. You're like, oh, this is actually good for what's happening there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, Christina, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Have an amazing weekend and stay safe and healthy, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much, Anne. I appreciate every minute of it, and I love this. It's a very back and forth, and I know you're going to look back at all these interviews in your life and be like, wow, this is great. This is a
Yeah,
great platform to be on. Thank you so much for your time.
thank you. It's great to get to meet all the guests on my show and hear your stories.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.